tumultuous day 2 of Pro Tour Singapore has completed, and we have ourselves a top 8, but let's see how we got there. Day 2 saw 135 players sail into the tempest that is high-level competition. I showed you this graphic I made yesterday. These were the top 14 or so players at the end of day 1, and that was sort of the breakdown of the heroes. Now let's take a look at the official day 2 conversion. That looks like this. You see 35 players on Arachne Slip Through the Cracks, 24 on Gravy Bones. Then you have Syndra at 15, 11 Verdants make the cut, Dash.io also at 11, and then the list continues down there. I do want to point out, I love that they included the conversion percentage, because you can see that 44% of those Arachne Slip Through the Cracks players made it, 51% of Gravy Bones made it to day 2. And I think the biggest standout here is looking at Arachne Marionette. Now, Arachne Marionette was not as represented on day 1 as something, of course, like our leading deck, Arachne Slip Through the Cracks, but it could, as I said a week ago, be a good answer in this format for playing against Arachne Slip Through the Cracks, because Arachne Slip Through the Cracks gives go again to Marionette's attacks. Now, also interestingly enough, we see that only 2 Acilios made the cut. One of those was at the top of that leaderboard, or I should say towards the top of the leaderboard at the end of day 1. Now, of course, day 2 did not begin with Classic Constructed. Instead, it began with Draft. So after we moved through the draft rounds, this is what we saw as the standings shook out. You can see Yuki Lee Bender was on the top of the heap yesterday, but loses only 1 game, moves down to 2nd position after draft. Tom Escoffier makes his way up to the first seed, if you will. Of course, there's more games to play after this, because after the draft rounds, we have 4 rounds of Classic Constructed play. And look at how some of these other names mixed up and mixed out. Justin Fryer, I do believe, was the Acilio player from day 1, all the way falling from 2 down to 20, having a bit of a rough go, it appears, on the draft proceedings. But this is how it broke out after that draft round. So as I mentioned, we started here at the beginning of day 2, and this is where we ended up, where we will pick up again tomorrow with the top 8. And can you believe it? There are 4 Gravy Bones in the top 8. I will be honest with you, I did not in any way, shape, or form predict that there could be 4 Gravy Bones in the top 8. I do think Gravy Bones is a very strong deck. I have been playing it a lot myself, and I do think he has a lot of tools at his disposal into an overall wide meta. But I thought he was so pressured by some of these aggressive decks that he would at least be tamped down. I did expect a Gravy Bones or 2 to make the top cut, but I did not expect it to be full of Gravy Bones to this degree. And it's pretty cool to see players take a deck that has clear holes, has clear weaknesses, and then find a way to make a bad matchup into a playable one. I don't think any player will look at you, including these ones in this top 8, will look at you and say, I want to play that Gravy Bones plus Arachne Slip Through the Cracks matchup. I don't think they're going to say that necessarily, but I do think that they have planned for it, and they have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that they can play into that matchup. Now, if we look at the breakdown, it's going to be interesting, because tomorrow I'm going to assume that LSS is going to bring us every game, which means we're going to watch 3 mirror matches across the quarterfinals. It's going to be Tom Escoffier versus Jimmy Nguyen. This is on the Arachne Slip Through the Cracks matchup, the 1 versus 8 seed. Now, Tom did steal away that top seed and never really let it go moving into day 2. So congratulations for taking that top seed. Now, here's the problem. Top seeds in Flesh and Blood have this little bit of a curse, if you will, for running into a tough matchup and losing a tough matchup in their quarterfinals match. So Tom going to try and shake off that curse a little bit and make it into the semifinals. Right after that, you have the 4 versus 5 seed Arthur Trehay sitting in the 5th seed versus Shirui Wu on a Gravy Bones and a Gravy Bones mirror. And we've seen a couple of Gravy Bones mirrors this go around in Pro Tour Singapore. They're pretty fun to watch, and based on the way the deck has started to change, they're moving a lot faster faster than they had been previously. Next up in the quarterfinals, we have our only non-mirror match in Syndra Drakai of Retribution versus Verdance Thorn of the Rose. And I've been pretty low on Verdance ever since US Nats, and people have really been playing Gravy Bones to a bigger degree, a greater degree, if you will. But Edison has really proven that they can play into this field, and I'd be curious to see if Edison can make it past Syndra, how they would tackle the proceedings in semifinals, because it's going to be Michael Hamilton versus Anki Dupaquier on Gravy Bones in our final mirror match, and that one's going to be another banger because I'm really curious to see if Michael Hamilton can stake his claim and win a Pro Tour, making his way all the way through the quarterfinals in a mirror match to, depending on how that match above him goes, what could be a tough or maybe an easier matchup in the semifinals, and then who knows what he's going to face down in the grand finals. But don't count out Anki Dupaquier because they are sitting pretty in that 6th seed, and if they can manage the mirror match just right, they could put themselves into the semifinals. And if you want my predictions for the results from tomorrow, I'm gonna say that one of those 2 Arachne slip through the cracks at the top there is gonna make it into the grand finals. I'll go ahead and pick Tom on top at the 1st seed. I think they're gonna shake off the curse of the top seed, make it all the way to the grand finals, and I think they're gonna face one of those 2 Gravy Bones at the bottom there. And I honestly can't pick between them. I guess I am American, so maybe I'll lean more the Michael Hamilton way and just go Michael Hamilton. But honestly, I could see that going either way because that matchup is so kind of coin flippy and skill expression dependent. And I imagine that both of these players have practiced it a good bit. But either way, I think it's going to come down to Arachne versus Gravy. And come on, if I have a rooting interest, I got to pick Gravy Bones, right? I got to cheer for literally the captain of the Armada. And if you're looking for highlights, I don't normally jump to a limited game for highlights, but I think this one is very much worth it. This was the first game out of the gate on the stream officially, and it was Tom versus Yuki Lee Bender. And I just want to show you this for the simple fact of the redistribution of wealth, because you gotta remember, this is High Seas Limited. That means Treasure Island exists and should be played with and played around. So 1 counter on Treasure Island, as you see it up there at the top. Tom draws up and passes over on turn number 1 to Yuki Lee Bender, and Yuki's gonna take a peek at the top of the deck. Gravy Bones mirror, and you can actually watch the draft round right before this to see how I believe Yuki's deck shaped out as Yuki's deciding on how she wants to begin her proceedings. Continuing forward, I'll skip around through this because I want to show you a specific part and why it is so important. But the Treasure Island's going to tick up to 2 thanks to the Restless Bones discarding here with Go Again the Shelly Hardened Traveler, a card that does not see a lot of really constructed play, but is a pretty solid body in this format and does require a response. It's expensive to swing with, but it is a 4/5 on the table, and that's exactly what we're going to see played out here at the end of the turn. It costs 2 to play it out, but now it's going to sit there, and Tom has some decisions on how to actually proceed, because in this format, you don't have a large amount of like 5 to 6 power Go Again effects. So essentially you need to pressure the hand of the opponent or just give up the turn to do exactly this. And that is exactly what we're going to see. The crash through the gates, crash down the gates, if you will, is going to punch its way through Shelly Hardened Traveler, buying a little bit of tempo on that turn as Yuki Lee Bender. I believe Treasure Island should be a card in Classic Constructed play or in Blitz play. It should be in constructed formats. I think they need to release this card in some way, shape, or form as a landmark that you can put into your deck, or somehow as a macro that you can include in your 80 and start on the board with. I think it'd be fantastic because it encourages back and forth play, and now there are 3 gold counters on the board and available for either of these players to battle over. And there, the Pilfer the Wreck is going to be covered up so that 3 counters remain. So we're up to 3, and we're going to continue to climb as Tom plays out a simple Jittery Bones and is going to hit a Barnacle for the Go Again. So if we're playing around the Treasure Island here and you're wanting to block and not allow Tom to really take those first couple of gold tokens, You have to commit to blocks here, and then what do you end up playing out? That's the real question. Maybe it'll be Jittery Bones, or sorry, Restless Bones from Arsenal pitching the only card you'll have left in your hand, which is the Cutty Shark. We're going to see how it all shapes up, but he's going to close the chain, and he's going to pitch his own Cutty Shark to bring out Barnacle, which is a powerhouse in this format and absolutely non-existent in Classic Constructed, which in my mind makes for good design, because this is a terrible breakpoint that you have to answer as Yuki Lee Bender, because you don't want just the free get of a breakpoint gold token generation, if you will, from Treasure Island. So into the blender Yuki goes. Gonna offer up a block here, it appears, and gonna give the headstone as well. I think that is a wise choice. In this format, you often see players using those equipment, not for their effect, but really for their breakpoints for blocking purposes. And that Restless Bones is not going to trigger its effect. The red card that was left in hand is going to make its way into the arsenal, and it's going to be committed to clearing the Barnacle. Yes, that's a 6 power attack that could have had go again and could have enabled, some graveyard placement of these allies. Instead, it just goes to clearing a 4/3 that costs you nothing. Restless Bones discarding the Chowda. Chowda comes across and makes its way into the graveyard. 4 go again is being presented. 5 on Treasure Island is the offer, if you will. And what is Yuki going to do? She's finally going to take the damage, and that means that the wealth has been secured, that the Urka gold, Urka de Lima, has been ransacked, pilfered, if you will, and Tom now has full control of this game. His hero is completely unlocked. He has 4 gold to play with, and from this point forward, the game really does start to spiral out of control for Yuki, and firmly in control, as you see as we skip forward. 5 gold tokens, Yuki has none. Yuki gets 1 on the board eventually, but the power that comes with gold in this format, if not respected, and I think Yuki was doing a fantastic job of respecting up until the point where she just couldn't. The power of gold means that you can ride the waves on the high tide of some of these cards, and you can get extra value on Battalion Bark. You can find your more powerful cards. You can cycle with Gravy Bones, and it really just puts the game out of reach, because he's able to take damage, he's able to throw a 6 power, and he's able to just kind of close this game out, dropping Yuki to 1, and then, of course, finishing things off with another sloop, and that will do it. So this is the game all shaped around who was going to get the lion's share of that gold, and it turns out that Tom found the line to do exactly that. Speaking of Yuki Lee Bender, we are going to jump into her round 13 matchup versus that Dash.io that I talked about earlier. This is a barn burner of a game, but it ends up slowing to a crawl, and I think this really highlights the power of Yuki's deck, and Arachne slipped through the cracks. Now, as you can see, the Dash.io player is just responding in a lot of ways to the major attack that's on the board there by Yuki Lee Bender. 12 and go again, all the pumps in the world, but dancing around it a little bit and getting out a Teklo core and keeping some cards in hand is the Dash.io player. And this is the point in the game where life parity ends up kind of going in favor of Dash.io, particularly because of the ability to play off the top. But I want to highlight this game because it really shows how a smart player like Yuki can see and read the board state and say, okay, my win condition has to change. This board state is going to get insane. I'm not going to be able to race this because there's too much on presentation here. There's a Teklo Pounder buffing a 0 to 60 to 4 with a Boom Grenade on the board that could deal extra damage. I just have to survive, because starting at this point, you can really kind of track the game not by life total, but by cards in deck. And as you see, Dash.io is going to be removing those cards in deck quite quickly, and Yuki takes a more defensive posture here. Spark of Genius is going to be deployed to search out that null time zone. Then there's a bit of a judge call, so we'll go ahead and skip that. And as you can see, Yuki's life total went very quickly, precipitously down. I'll show you exactly how that happened. That boom grenade comes down. T-Bone's gonna pull the piece of equipment that's left over there, the Black Tech Whisperers. It's not gonna block anything, but this is gonna represent 6 damage on the face of it, and there is indeed a block. The T-Bone there, another 3 damage, another block given. Trying to push over the top to get that boom grenade value, but boosting away cards in the process to gain those extra resources. And take a look at that. It's max velo time, 10 damage on offer, because max velocity does that. And it's not just 10 because that boom grenade is going to trigger, and there's the fall down all the way to 6. And again, at this point, you're just trying to outlast your opponent. Yuki makes the correct call, notices the dwindling deck size. And as we skip forward, you can see there's only 2 cards left in deck. Yuki able to pivot an aggressive deck into a full block fatigue state. And that is what's so cool about this deck, and what makes good players gravitate towards it, because here Yuki shows that you can make it a race game, but you can also make it a fatigue state type deck. And this is a really, really great finish. As you see, there's 2 cards left in deck. Yuki has a deck to play with, and going to be able to close this game out in a rather pedestrian fashion going forward. The block there dropping to 1, and at this point, I think the writing is on the wall. 2 cards left in hand. One of them doesn't block, and that's probably going to be all she wrote there, as the deck is completely gone for Dash.io. Congratulations to Yuki for playing such a masterful pivot there in the mid game. So there you go. There you have it. Tell me what you think about this top 8. Are you thinking that Gravy Bones is too good? I don't think he's too good. I think he's just good enough. That's how I feel about it. Are you excited to watch the top 8 play out in just a matter of, 12 hours at this point? Because I know that I am. If you enjoy this type of recap video and you want to see more of it, please consider supporting the channel. And of course, make the number go to the other number. As always, thanks for watching.